I heard Michael Saylor explain Bitcoin like this.
Half of the wealth in the world, $450 trillion, is invested in assets in search of a long-term store of value. People just want to engage in long-term capital preservation. Well, the use case is you get to keep your money. That's actually the epiphany.
Just for context, Bitcoin currently has a market value of $2 trillion. So my first thought, here's another rich guy pumping his Bitcoin bags. Then I stumbled upon an explanation of Bitcoin that made me stop what I was doing and just stare at my screen. Give me 20 minutes and I'll share the exact explanation with you. No unexplained technical jargon, no investment hype, just 6 fundamental concepts that transform Saylor's seemingly outrageous claim into the most logical statement I've ever heard. And once you see it, I promise you can't unsee it. Fair warning, this took me about 5 years to understand, and I know I still have a lot more to learn. So I'm going to try to save you all that time by showing you exactly what finally clicked for me. But first, what is Bitcoin? It's digital peer-to-peer money that anyone can use, like handing someone cash directly, but online without any middleman. So let me address what you're probably thinking. Don't we already have a perfectly good money system that works digitally? I used to think exactly the same thing. I can send money to friends instantly, tap my phone to pay at stores, and check my bank balance anywhere. So what problem is Bitcoin actually solving? Quick question here. Which would you rather have? $1,000 that someone else controls when, where, and how much you can spend, or $1,000 that is truly yours to spend as you please? Keep that answer in mind. The issue is that our entire financial system runs on trust. A trust that's been broken repeatedly throughout history. You trust banks to actually have your money. But remember bank runs in 2008 or the Silicon Valley bank collapse in 2023. When everyone tries to withdraw at once, we discover that trust was just an illusion. And these weren't numbers on a spreadsheet. These were people who couldn't buy groceries because their bank temporarily froze withdrawals. You trust governments not to print too much money. Yet, since 2020, about 80% of all US dollars in existence were created in just 3 years. Seen the price of eggs lately? You trust payment processors to transfer your money until they decide you've violated some policy and freeze your account, which became increasingly common during COVID as processors became more risk averse and implemented stricter fraud detection measures. Now imagine playing poker where the casino dealer not only plays against you, but also controls the rules, counts the chips, and can print more chips whenever they start losing. That's our current financial system. But your kids might grow up never needing to ask a bank for permission to use their own money. That future already exists. Most people just don't know it yet. But here's what I couldn't figure out. If trust is the problem, how do you create money without needing to trust anyone? The answer involves something that sounds impossible. And before Bitcoin, it seems like it was impossible. But I was too smart to just trust it, as it was clearly a Ponzi scheme, just making people money by selling it to the next sucker. Then I discovered the explanation that changed everything. One thing confused me more about anything else about Bitcoin. How do you create digital money that can't just be copied infinitely? Think about it. If I email you a photo, now we both have the photo. But money can't work that way. If I send you $20, I shouldn't still have the $20. This is called the double spending problem, and for decades computer scientists considered it unsolvable without a central authority. If this feels like a lot, don't worry, it'll all click together by the end, I promise. Banks solve this problem by keeping a central record of all the transactions. If I try to spend the same $20 twice, the bank says, sorry, you've already spent that. But this brings us back to trust. You're trusting the bank's record. So the first thing to understand Bitcoin is the double spending problem, the core challenge that Bitcoin had to solve to work as digital money. Many people tried to solve this before, and some came close, such as BitGold or B-Money, but none of them had all 5 of the next concepts that I'm about to cover, which made them pretty much worthless eventually. So to understand how Bitcoin fixed the double spending problem, we need to understand the next 5 concepts first, and then we'll come back to this. For the next concept, imagine a massive spreadsheet shared by millions of people. Everyone can see every transaction ever made. When someone sends Bitcoin, instead of just one bank updating its private records, thousands of computers around the world verify and record that transaction. Think of it like a magic notebook at school that makes a perfect copy of itself for everyone in the class. You can only add new pages once you've solved a tricky puzzle and everyone agrees you're right. The system then adds this new page to everyone's notebook. Once something is written, not even the teacher can erase it. This was my first holy crap moment. Someone had actually solved digital trust. Bitcoin is designed so that each new page takes about 10 minutes to add. If the puzzle gets too easy, it automatically becomes harder, and vice versa. This completely eliminates the need for a trusted middleman, since each block contains verified transactions that everyone can see. So the second concept to understand about Bitcoin is blockchain technology. This public ledger records all transactions in chronological order. But this doesn't explain how new Bitcoins are created, which led me deeper down the rabbit hole. When I first heard about Bitcoin miners, I pictured people with digital pickaxes hunting for internet gold. Seriously, you've probably heard Bitcoin mining described as solving complex math problems, which sounds both boring and confusing. In fact, mining is actually more like a global lottery with a genius twist. Instead of buying tickets, you buy electricity to power computers that make trillions of guesses every second. Everyone's trying to crack an insanely tricky combination lock by feeding three things into Bitcoin's cryptographic function. 1, the previous block, 2, new transactions, and 3, a random number. This spits out a 64-character code, and you win it if it starts with enough zeros. Remember how blockchain creates a new block every 10 minutes? The system automatically adjusts. If someone wins it too quickly, it requires more zeros at the start. If it takes too long, fewer zeros. The catch? This lottery has driven some of the most innovative thinking to make electricity cheaper and more efficient, advancing the world's renewable energy technology while creating the most secure money system ever built. This is because the first person to find the winning output gets 2 rewards. 1, they add the new page of transactions to Bitcoin's ledger, receiving transaction fees. And 2, they receive brand new Bitcoins, currently 3.125 Bitcoin. Here's something wild. Right now, while you're watching this, Bitcoin has processed another block. Somewhere in the world, someone just won over $300,000 for keeping your future money safe. You can check this out yourself on this website. And here's why this matters. For the first time in history, we've created something digital that requires real-world resources to produce. Oh, and more importantly, it has the next concept I'm about to cover. But just think about it. Emails, songs, photos, all can be copied infinitely for free. But Bitcoin, each one costs actual electricity to create. You can't just copy-paste more into existence. I know what you're thinking. This still sounds incredibly wasteful. I thought the same until I realized that over half of the energy comes from renewable resources, and this is growing rapidly. Oh, it also removes methane from the atmosphere, helping to reduce global warming. But more on this another time. So the third concept to understand about Bitcoin is mining, the process that secures the network and creates new Bitcoins through real-world energy expenditure. Okay, so far we've got digital money that can't be copied and a global guessing game that creates value. If you're thinking this sounds like science fiction, join the club. But this raises an obvious question. Surely there's a way for computer geeks to hack this system. Well, did you know anyone with an internet connection and a laptop can run a Bitcoin node? Yes, even you, James. A node is simply a computer that keeps a copy of the entire Bitcoin ledger and checks that everyone is following the rules. This can be done on the laptop you own for free or a special computer you buy for a few $100s specifically for running a node. When miners find a solution and try to add a new block, all these independent nodes verify everything is legitimate. If someone tries to cheat, say by giving themselves extra Bitcoin, the nodes will reject their block. This is why the Bitcoin motto is, don't trust, verify. It's like having millions of independent auditors checking the books 24/7. No single person or organization can change the rules without the vast majority of users agreeing. Plot twist. You could become one of these auditors tonight. Download the software and you're officially helping secure the first global free market that has ever existed. I'll leave a 5-minute video in the description below which shows you how to do this. Like most people, I thought having no CEO made Bitcoin sketchy, not realizing this was actually its superpower. But here's what makes Bitcoin truly unique. It's immaculate conception. Unlike every other cryptocurrency, Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, completely disappeared after releasing it to the world. No one knows who they are, where they went, or if they're even alive. This isn't a bug, it's the feature that makes Bitcoin unstoppable. Think about it. Every other digital currency has founders, CEOs, or companies behind it that can be pressured, regulated, arrested, or corrupted. But Bitcoin, there's literally no one in charge to target. Satoshi's disappearance means Bitcoin belongs to everyone and no one simultaneously. It's like releasing the recipe for fire and then vanishing. The knowledge becomes humanity's, not any individual's. So the fourth concept to understand about Bitcoin is decentralization. No single entity controls Bitcoin. It's maintained by millions of computers worldwide, all incentivized to do so, with no central authority that can ever be compromised. But even with all this security, how is this a store of value, like Saylor claimed? It's because Bitcoin's scarcity is like nothing we've ever seen before. Only 21 million will ever exist, period. This is truly new for mankind. Throughout all of human history, every form of money has kept expanding in supply. Gold, which has been the rarest form of money for thousands of years, will double in total supply within the next 60 years. But Bitcoin, the amount that currently exists, will never double again, ever. Every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years, the reward miners get is cut in half, making new Bitcoins increasingly rare. Until around the year 2140, no more new ones will ever be created. Think about that. In a world where the Fed can print trillions of dollars overnight, Bitcoin has a fixed supply that can never be changed. This isn't just digital money. It's digital gold being mined with electricity instead of shovels, but with absolute scarcity that even gold can't match. So the fifth concept to understand about Bitcoin is scarcity. Bitcoin's fixed supply that can never be changed, making it potentially the scarcest asset in human history. Now, two questions spring to mind here. One, if there's only 21 million Bitcoin, how can everyone in the world use it? And two, how do you know it will never be changed? Great questions. Here's where I got confused for months. I thought only 21 million meant regular people couldn't use it, but that's like saying there's only one pizza, so 8 people can't eat it. You slice pizza into pieces, Bitcoin splits into 100 million pieces each. That means there's 2.1 quadrillion units available, enough for every person on Earth to use. Just for reference, there's roughly around $1 quadrillion floating around in the whole world at the moment. And yes, you can buy a coffee with it. You don't need to deal in whole Bitcoins. Just like you don't need a whole bar of gold to buy groceries. Secondly, changing Bitcoin's rules requires almost everyone in the Bitcoin ecosystem to agree. Users, businesses, exchanges, and miners. If some people disagree and split off, it creates a completely new token, like Bitcoin Cash did when it tried to change the block size. The free market then decides which version people actually want to use and which one becomes worthless. And you can see how many people agreed Bitcoin Cash was better. But here's the key. Asking to create more than 21 million Bitcoins is like asking everyone to make their own money worth less. For example, if you held $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and there was a new rule to make 210 million Bitcoin, your Bitcoin would now be worth $10,000. Since virtually nobody would vote to hurt themselves financially, the 21 million limit is the big rule that is impossible to change. Here's another crazy stat. There are about 56 million millionaires worldwide, but only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist. Do the math. That's less than 0.4 Bitcoin per millionaire. So we've got perfect scarcity, but here's the mind-bending part. How do you actually own something that doesn't physically exist? This is where Bitcoin gets really clever. The question that helps me understand this was, where is Bitcoin actually stored? Bitcoin is everywhere and nowhere all at once. Unlike your bank account, which exists in an entry in your bank's database, or your emails that live on Google's servers in specific physical data centers that could theoretically be attacked or destroyed, Bitcoin exists as information spread across thousands of computers worldwide. What you actually own is not a digital coin sitting in a digital vault somewhere. You own access, specifically a private key that proves you control those Bitcoins. This key is often secured by a 12-word seed phrase. Whoever has this phrase effectively has the Bitcoin. It's what's called a bearer asset, meaning possession equals ownership, just like physical gold or cash. This is where the phrase "not your keys, not your coins" comes from. When you truly own Bitcoin, no one can freeze it, seize it, or block your transactions. No banks, no governments, no one. And yes, governments have already tried. We've been trained to think access equals ownership. When you log into your bank app, you think you're looking at your money, but you're not. You're looking at an IOU from the bank. They can freeze it, block transactions, or limit withdrawals anytime. Just stop and take a mental note of this fact. You'll never see your bank account the same way again. For example, when paying a deposit on our house, I had to go into the bank and ask for permission to send my money because it exceeded their daily limit. Or during the 2013 Cyprus crisis, the government took 47.5% of large bank deposits. That was someone's life savings gone because they trusted the wrong people with their money. And in case you hadn't realized, you and me are doing this right now with our money in the bank. They just haven't confiscated it yet. With Bitcoin, it's actually yours. So the sixth and final concept to understand about Bitcoin is digital signatures, cryptographic proof of ownership that gives you true control over your money. Wait, do you see what just happened? We accidentally built the most secure money system in human history. No banks, no governments, no single point of failure. We just described digital gold that's better than actual gold. So now that you understand all six concepts, let's see how they work together to solve the double spending problem. Remember the challenge? How do you prevent someone from spending the same digital money twice without trusting a central authority? Here's how Bitcoin solves double spending. Your digital signature proves you own the Bitcoin. The blockchain records every transaction publicly so everyone can verify you haven't spent it before. Decentralized nodes check that you're following the rules. Mining makes it incredibly expensive to fake transactions, and scarcity means you can't just create fake Bitcoins. Together, they make cheating impossible without trusting anyone. This is how Bitcoin became the first digital money that works without trust, and why previous attempts like B-Money and BitGold all failed where Bitcoin succeeded. BitGold was the closest, but eventually the centralization was the key issue. If you understood all of that on your first try, you're either a genius or lying. So make sure to watch this again. But wait, if this system is so perfect, why isn't everyone using it? There is one massive obstacle that most people can't get past, and it's not what you think. But before that, here's some quick answers to the obstacles that took me years to overcome. I will dive deeper into these in future videos. But isn't it too slow for everyday transactions? The Lightning Network is built on top of Bitcoin, making transactions nearly instant with fees that are fractions of a penny. Think of it like opening a bar tab. You transact instantly all night, then settle once at the end. But Bitcoin isn't real like gold, which is used in manufacturing and jewelry. How can it have any value? Did you know less than 10% of gold's value comes from its industrial use? The other 90% comes from its monetary properties, scarcity, durability, and everyone agreeing that it's valuable. Bitcoin has these same properties, but digitally perfected. Store of value, but it goes down 80% all the time. Amazon crashed 95% in the dot-com bubble, but it was still revolutionary. Early adoption of breakthrough technology is always volatile, but it reduces over time. MicroStrategy, with billions of dollars as a public company, put their entire treasury into Bitcoin. Fidelity offers Bitcoin in retirement accounts, managing pension funds. Pension funds are very risk adverse. These aren't crypto bros gambling. They see what's coming. What happens when all Bitcoins are mined? Miners will still be incentivized to secure the network through transaction fees instead of new Bitcoin rewards. The system becomes self-sustaining through usage rather than inflation. But what is the one big obstacle most people can never get past? It's this question, which I'm sure you've thought about before too. What makes Bitcoin different from all the other cryptocurrencies? Why won't someone just create a better one? It's because Bitcoin is a protocol, like the internet, a fundamental set of rules everyone agrees to follow. You can't just build a better internet and expect everyone to abandon existing infrastructure. As I've just shown, Bitcoin checks every box for peer-to-peer digital money. It has $2 trillion invested into it. It has 15 years of perfect operation despite thousands of attacks and billions in specialized hardware securing it. The vast majority of other cryptocurrencies fall down on the decentralization hurdle. They still have founders, owners, or companies that steer the ship and could change the rules, as we've seen numerous times already with things like Ethereum. Here's the crucial point. If any of these 6 elements were missing, Bitcoin would be worthless or easily replaceable. Remove the blockchain, you're back to trusting banks. Remove mining, no security or new Bitcoin creation. Remove decentralization, someone controls your money and can change the rules anytime. Remove scarcity, it's just another printable fiat currency. Remove digital signatures, you don't truly own it. Remove the solution to double spending, it doesn't work as money. But when you combine all 6 together, you get exactly what Michael Saylor described. The perfect store of value.
Well, the use case is you get to keep your money. That's actually the epiphany.
This is why Bitcoin isn't just another investment. It's a fundamental shift from asking permission to use your own money to actually owning it. Remember his claim about $450 trillion. If Bitcoin captured that entire store of value market, each Bitcoin would be worth about $21.4 million. That's more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. This is not a prediction by any means, and I know it seems absurd, but the reason we're not there yet is simply because so few people understand these concepts. When you strip it all back to first principles, it's not because Bitcoin isn't working or not worth 450 trillion. Ideally, you won't blindly trust what I've just shared, and you'll go away and do your own research about them. And if you do see what I'm seeing, maybe we're one of the few people in a position to benefit from this understanding. But here's the truth. Most people still get Bitcoin completely wrong, even after learning everything I just said. They're missing one crucial element that changes everything. And this is something our brains are not wired to understand. To see what this is, watch this video right here. It breaks down one concept that finally made me realize why I was struggling to understand Bitcoin. Remember, once you see it, you can't unsee it.